I was reborn and it happened to be the 5th year of my marriage. The time when Zachary said he had lost his memory. I only remember loving your sister Hannah very much. He covered his head with a pained expression. My son also took my hand. Mom. Don't blame Dad. He just wants to take care of Auntie. Auntie is such a nice person. Mom. You can't bear to see her alone. Right? The system popped up, just like in my previous life. Host. It's okay that he has amnesia. You succeeded last time. And you can do it this time too. Just strategy guide the affectionate sect and mail latent your son again. I casually lit a 80s cigarette. Turned over the photo of the family of 3. And looked at the photo of the Y and her villain in my phone. System. I remember that I can change the target to strategy guide. Right? Huh? The system was stunned. You had a chance to change the target to strategy guide before and you never used it. But why do you want to change it now? Zachary just has amnesia? Besides, you already have a son with him. If you change the target to strategy guide now, what about your son Leo? No, I don't agree. Amnesia. In my previous life, I believed Zachary's nonsense and tried every means to help him regain his memory and make him fall in love with me again. However, I witnessed the deepening of his relationship with Hannah. Sorry. Maybe we really have a lot of wonderful memories. But I don't remember anything now. I only have Hannah in my heart. No matter how hard I tried. All he gave me was the apology of a stranger. He even wanted to negotiate a divorce with me. And our son Leo is just like a younger version of Zachary. When I was suffering because I couldn't help Zachary regain his memory, and when I insisted on saving this marriage, he firmly stood on his father's side. Mom. You often tell me to be helpful. Why are you angry when Dad helps Auntie? You're so selfish and annoying like this. Even my parents came to persuade me. Why are you doing this to yourself? The person Zachary loves now is your sister. He can't remember you. Why do you insist on not getting a divorce? Anyway, Leo also likes your sister. Even if you and Zachary get divorced, we'll still be a family. Later, they started to accuse me. Your sister is divorced. She's so pitiful. Why don't you feel sorry for her at all? She and Zachary are in love now. Just because you won't get a divorce. She has to bear the reputation of being a mistress. She's your sister. How can you be so selfish? Later, due to long-term depression, I fell ill. When I went to the hospital, I saw Zachary supporting Hannah. Hannah was sobbing in his arms. Zachary, can you just tell Rachel that you're faking your amnesia? He was silent for a moment. After all, we've been married for 5 years. I'm afraid it will hurt her too much if I do that. But she keeps dragging her feet and won't get a divorce. My belly is getting bigger. How can I face others? How can the child face others when it's born? Hannah cried. It turned out that Zachary had never lost his memory. The so-called amnesia was just an excuse for his affair with Hannah. And I was like a fool, thinking that he loved me, and even trying to help him recover his so-called memory. That day, I went back to the empty house alone and had a high fever at night. I called Zachary, Leo, Dadalo Sai, and my parents. But no one answered. They were all celebrating Hannah's birthday. One festive photo after another was posted in the group chat. I raised my hand and sent a few words in the group chat. I'm going to die. The group chat fell silent all of a sudden. At this moment, Hannah's call came in. Rachel, did you deliberately not come to my birthday party? Do you hate me so much? Her voice was filled with sobs. If you don't want to come, then don't come. She's really giving herself airs. My father's voice came from the receiver, saying she's going to die. Who is she trying to disgust on purpose? My mother chimed in beside him. Auntie, don't worry about my mom. It's already midnight. Come and blow out the candles quickly. Leo's voice came from the receiver. There was laughter and chatter on the other end of the phone. And as the phone slowly slipped from my hand, I heard a mechanical voice. Host, the strategy guide of the side story failed. And the strategy guide of the final ending failed. But due to achieving the marriage achievement in the middle and exchanging valid points, you have a chance to be reborn with the original system. The automatic start will be initiated soon. Fight. 2. So. This was a side story. I finally understood. No wonder when I got married and told the system that I was willing to stay. It didn't say much. It turned out that I had never succeeded in the strategy guide. And I hadn't escaped the shackles of the plot. In the side story, the female lead divorced the original male lead and finally got together with the affectionate sat and male lead who still loved her even though he was married. And I was just the vicious supporting female character in the side story. A stumbling block on their path of love. And a catalyst for their deep affection for each other. I was someone that no one would care about even if I died. Just then, let out a low sigh. Zachary and Leo came back. As soon as Leo saw me, he quickly stood in front of his father. Mom, don't pull Dad and talk about the past again today. He's exhausted. Yeah. He was indeed exhausted. Hannah officially got divorced today. And he took Leo to help her move. Thinking of this, I suddenly laughed. Zachary frowned slightly. Rachel, what are you laughing at? His gaze rested on the cigarette in my hand. After all, I used to never smoke. You know what, Zachary? I crossed my legs and leisurely blew out a smoke ring. In the past, when I read novels, I liked the affectionate sec and male lead the most. Now that I think about it, what affectionate second male lead? He's just a simp. I pointed at him and then at Leo. I just didn't expect that the son born to a simp is also a simp. It seems that this kind of thing is hereditary. What simp? Leo was stunned. Mom, what are you talking about? How can you call your own son a simp? Rachel, don't act like this just because I helped Hannah today, Zachary said impatiently. Why are you even jealous of your own sister? Besides, I also want to take a day off after accompanying you to look for memories every day. It's not necessary anymore. I said. What? I put out the cigarette and the water and handed him the divorce agreement from the table. I figured it out. If the memories are gone, they're gone. It's no big deal. I've already drafted the divorce agreement. I've also found my next partner recently. Let's help SB to achieve his aim. Each other and get a divorce. What did you say? Zachary was stunned. Host. Calm down. Host. You can't handle the Y and or villains Jason. He's a big bad guy. You can't change the target to strategy guide. Yeah. I just want to find a big bad guy. I smiled at the system. Otherwise, who will help me? The vicious supporting female character. Bring down Zachary and Rachel's family? You said. Zachary said in disbelief. You have a next partner? He stared at me blankly and blurted out. How is that possible? Yeah. In Zachary's view, this was of course impossible. Zachary was Hannah's simp. And in the past, wasn't I Zachary's simp? I put him first in everything. I accompanied him when he was down and took care of him when he was feeling bad. I even stayed up for several days and nights to change the ice pack for him to make him feel better when he had a fever. Rachel, can you stop making a scene? Zachary threw the divorce agreement on the table with a dark face. I told you. I have amnesia now. Whether you're pretending to get a divorce or making up this thing about a next partner to make me jealous or jealous, I don't have the slightest bit of. Lou Corporation was built up by the two of us after marriage. I want 30 of the equity. And I don't want the child. I walked to the door expressionlessly. As long as you sign. We'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau immediately. He was stunned again. What does divorce mean? Is Auntie going to be my mom? Leo asked blankly. I ignored the father and son and opened the door and walked out. Host. What on earth are you doing? Zachary just has amnesia. He has feelings for you. You're hurting him so much like this. The system chattered in my ear. System. Do you think I should put on some makeup before going to Shen Corporation? Huh? Where are you going? No, you must never go to find the Y-ender villain. You'll regret it to death. Beep. I used 20 points to mute the system. It's too noisy. I bought a new set of clothes and changed into them. And then went to the makeup room and had a beautiful makeup done. Madam, you look so beautiful today. Are you going to celebrate any special anniversary with Sir? The makeup artist knew me and asked sweetly. Yeah. I'm going to cheat on him. I touched the pearl earrings I designed with satisfaction. Madam, my You're really joking. After thinking about it, I didn't drive my own car. Instead, I took a taxi to Shen Corporation building. May I ask who you're looking for? Do you have an appointment? The receptionist asked when she saw me. Please tell President Jason. I smiled. Rachel from Lu Corporation is here to give him a big gift. In the office of the president of Shen Corporation. President Jason's office is really big, but it's a bit empty. I sat on the sofa and looked around. Mrs. Zachary. My time is quite precious. Z. Jason sat behind the desk with his legs crossed. His face gloomy. I know. Aren't you just busy competing with Lu Corporation? I smiled. If I say I'm willing to defect to President Jason, would President Jason be willing to take me in? He was stunned for a moment and then suddenly laughed. I've long heard that Mrs. Zachary has deep feelings for President Zachary. I didn't expect that now. For the sake of Lu Corporation. You're even willing to use yourself as bait to come to my Shen Corporation. He stood up and walked closer, putting his hands on both sides of me. His eyes dangerous. Aren't you afraid that if you enter the lair of the enemy alone, you'll be eaten up without even a trace left? Our eyes met. And we were silent for a while. I burst out laughing. Not afraid, since President Jason knows that I'm someone who can do anything for my husband. Why don't you marry me? After all, you know that someone like me who is love-brained can dedicate everything to my lover. Besides, the design team in my hand is quite good. He didn't say anything. But I knew that he was a bit tempted. Not tempted by me, but tempted by the resources in my hand. In fact, Z. Jason and I are old acquaintances. The Shen Corporation he controls is the rival of Lu Corporation. He has caused a lot of trouble for Zachary in the business world. I was also a somewhat famous designer in the original world. Lu Corporation was once driven to the verge of bankruptcy by Z. Jason. And the first pot of gold that brought it back to life was earned by the jewelry products I designed. Over the years, Lu Corporation and Shen Corporation have clashed several times, with each having their own wins and losses. And Z. Jason is also the person Zachary hates the most. After a while, he straightened up. Mrs. Zachary is indeed quite pretty. But I have no interest in married women. What if I divorce Zachary? I stood up, took a step closer, and looked up at him. He was slightly stunned. Oh, and that's a different story. He smiled. However, Mrs. Zachary, you should know that I can't tolerate traitors. He reached out and lifted my chin. In my opinion, marriage is indeed a valid contract, but if Mrs. Zachary wants to marry me, she has to show some sincerity. 30 of the equity of Lu Corporation and my design team. I'll remarry you with them. I smiled. Can President Jason handle it? Z. Jason agreed to my terms. In the following days, I simply moved out of the house and started making various preparations for life after divorce in advance. Zachary and Leo didn't come looking for me. They were probably having a great time with Hannah. One day, I went back to get a design drawing that I had forgotten to take. As soon as I opened the door, I found it was extremely lively inside. Leo was crying aggrievedly in Hannah's arms. My parents looked very angry. And Zachary also had a gloomy face. You actually have the nerve to come back? I don't know where you've been fooling around. My mother scolded me as soon as she saw me. You don't care about the child. And you don't care about your husband either. How could I have raised a daughter like you? If it weren't for Hannah helping to take care of Leo recently, we wouldn't have known that Leo was being bullied so badly in kindergarten. How can you be such a mother? How could you take the side of others? I frowned. Hannah immediately came up and said softly, Rachel, it's not that I'm criticizing you, but when Leo was bullied by other children in kindergarten, how could you make him apologize first? It must have left such a big shadow on his heart. Why can't he apologize first when he's in the wrong? He called others poor and their parents useless first. The other child couldn't stand it and fought back. And Leo didn't suffer any losses. In the end, he broke the other child's nose bone. I said, how could he not have suffered losses? Hannah's voice was still soft. When I picked him up these past few days, he was in a bad mood. But it doesn't matter. I've already given money to that family. And immediately they made their child apologize to Leo. What? I was stunned. Don't you think it's too unfair to that child? He was clearly the victim. Just because his parents accepted the money, he has to apologize? He should apologize to me. Mom. You're so biased. You're a bad person. You're not my mom. I want a new mom. Leo rushed up to hit me, but was held back by Hannah. You see, the child is heartbroken. Hannah squatted down and wiped the 2 tears that Leo had forced out. I was speechless. Do you really think this kind of education is good for him? Stop talking. We all agree with Hannah's approach. My father came over and said in a deep voice. You didn't grow up by our side when you were a child. It's because we neglected your upbringing that you've grown into such an irresponsible wife and mother. If you can't educate the child, give the child to Hannah to take care of. I think Hannah is much more competent than you. I was so angry that I laughed. You can't wait. Can you? I turned to Zachary. What about you? Do you also agree with what they did? This matter is already over. He stood up. Don't keep dwelling on it. Hurry up and cook. Dad is busy outside every day. How can you have the nerve to not be at home every day? We're all starving. Leo shouted at the top of his lungs again. Forget it. I took a deep breath. Zachary. Have you signed the divorce agreement? Agreement? What agreement? Hannah seemed not to know about this matter yet, but her eyes rolled. And she immediately ran to the table and picked up the divorce agreement. Rachel. You want a divorce? And you actually want 30 of the shares of the Lou Corporation? She stared at me with her big watery eyes. Don't you think? It's too much. How can you be so greedy? Too much? Greedy? I looked at her. When Zachary and I got married, the Lou Corporation was almost bankrupt. It was the jewelry I designed that brought the Lou Corporation back to life. And it was also me who formed the current design team. Why can't I deserve these 30 of the shares? But you withdrew from the company's management after giving birth to Leo. The current achievements of the Lou Corporation are all due to Zachary's hard work bit by bit. How can you have the nerve to say it's your credit? Not being at home, causing a divorce, and demanding money from your husband's family. Our Rachel family is really ashamed to have a daughter like you. My father scolded angrily. You haven't seen my efforts over the years. Why do you say I don't deserve it? How can you say I haven't taken care of the company? As a designer, I accompanied Zachary to one drinking party after another. I drank just as much as he did when he drank. I couldn't help but shout. Enough. Zachary suddenly roared. Everyone fell silent. Rachel, 30 is indeed too much. He said calmly. I really can't agree to it. I suddenly laughed. You guys are really disgusting. I turned around, found the designed raft, slammed the door, and left. I really don't want to see anyone in that house anymore. It was raining outside, and I didn't have an umbrella. You see, I told you not to make trouble. Now how are you going to deal with this? It will be difficult for you to make Zachary forgive you again. The system kept saying. Be quiet for a while. I found an empty space and squatted down. The rain flowed down my hair. I hugged my knees and felt cold all over. Although this is a world for completing missions, I have treated everyone in this world sincerely. I truly regarded them as my family. Although I already knew that I had fallen in love with a scumbag, at this moment, I still felt that I didn't deserve it. I felt that all the years I had spent in the past were not worth it. It seems that Mrs. Zachary's path to divorce is not going smoothly. An umbrella suddenly appeared above my head. I looked up, and it was actually Jason. He held the umbrella and looked down at me. Sorry, I can't get the 30 of the equity. I smiled self-deprecating lie. Just pretend you didn't hear what I said before. President Jason. He was silent for a moment and then suddenly squatted down. Actually, I seem to have started to be a bit interested in you. Rachel. Do you want to try a different way? Huh? I don't want that 30 of the equity anymore. He took out a tissue and helped me wipe the rainwater from my hair. Marry me. And we'll make the Lou Corporation go bankrupt together. Host. Don't be impulsive. Wait a minute. Bang. I pushed open the door of the president's office of the Lou Corporation. Divorce. I slapped the new divorce agreement in front of Zachary. He frowned. I don't want the equity. I'll leave the house clean. You can sign it now. Right? What are you going crazy about? He pinched his forehead. I told you. I've already found my next partner. I'm in a hurry to get married. So we have to divorce immediately. He suddenly laughed and slowly took out a stack of papers from the drawer. Rachel. Your car's dashboard camera shows that when you weren't at home these days, you just went to the apartment you lived in before marriage. Your movement track is very simple. So simple that it's as if you have nowhere else to go. He closed the papers and looked determined. You don't have a next partner at all. All your fussing is just to attract my attention by getting a divorce. I suddenly understood how helpless the person who invented the idiom, preaching to the bull, must have been at that time. I sat down, lit a lady's cigarette, and called Hannah. After her divorce, Zachary arranged for her to work in the Lou Corporation. Why are you calling her? Ask her to come up and have a chat. Hannah indeed arrived soon. Rachel. What are you doing? Zachary is very tired from work. Last time you made everyone in the family very unhappy. This is the company. You can't act recklessly. Shut up and just listen here. I interrupted her. Zachary. I turned my head, flicked the ash, and smiled at him. Now that everyone is here, tell me, do you not want me to leave? What? He was stunned. You keep saying that you've forgotten me and only remember Hannah. But when I want to divorce you, you don't want to. Don't you just not want me to leave? Actually, you don't like Hannah that much. Do you? Or is the memory loss fake? In fact, you remember everything about being with me. So you don't want to sign the divorce agreement, right? I looked at Hannah. What should I do? I didn't know he loved me so much. Shut up. Zachary suddenly interrupted me. Zachary. Hannah immediately looked at him with her big watery eyes. His face looked extremely ugly. After a while, he clenched his fists and said, Rachel, I originally felt sorry for you. Since we were husband and wife, and you had nowhere else to go, I didn't want to sign the agreement. I haven't remembered you. And I don't miss you. To me, Hannah a low sigh. You're just a stranger. You want a divorce so much? Fine. I'll grant your wish. He waved his hand and signed his name on the agreement as if in a fit of pique. But don't regret it. Afraid that Zachary would go back on his word. As soon as he signed the papers, I dragged him to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Pick up the divorce certificate in a month. Don't be late. He gave me a cold look and left. What on earth is he angry about? Wasn't it him who desperately wanted a divorce in the previous life? Looking at his back, I was very speechless. What previous life? The system asked in confusion. Oh, I forgot. This system doesn't have the memory of the previous life. A few days later, Jason called me and asked me to go to a certain place. I went there. And it turned out to be a bridal shop. Hello, Rachel. President Jason specifically instructed that we should help you try on any dress you like, the staff said. When I married Zachary, because Zachary liked it and to make him happy, I wore a wedding dress with a long train. But actually, I personally prefer a mermaid-style dress. This time, I'm going to make myself happy. I tried on dresses in the bridal shop for the whole afternoon. Took a few photos. And sent them to Jason. You like the mermaid-style dress? He replied quickly. It suits you very well. At this moment, the phone suddenly rang. I thought it was Jason. So I picked it up without thinking. Leo has a fever. Come back immediately. It was Zachary's voice. I took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. We're getting a divorce. And Leo is in your custody. You're his father. Can't you take care of him? Rachel, there's a connection between mother and child. The child is in so much pain. How can you say such cold-blooded words? It was Hannah. So she's there. That makes it easier. I can't go back. I suppressed my impatience. Sister. Don't you like Leo the most? Then I'll tell you. When he's sick, you need to hold him all the time. Sing him lullabies all night long like you're taking care of a baby. And you also need to take his temperature every half an hour. By the way, it's very difficult for him to take medicine. He'll deliberately spit it everywhere. But it doesn't matter. Just make the medicine a few more times and give him a few more baths. I don't have any experience. Why are you telling me all this? You're his mother. So of course you should come back and take care of him. Leo. Leo. Don't spit on Antari. Hannah. I said coldly. What do you think raising a child is? Is it you? Looking glamorous. Secretly giving him candy. Spoiling him. Indulging him. And listening to him sweetly say that he likes you? No. Raising a child means not getting a good night's sleep for nights on end. Taking care of him over and over again. Repeating the same things constantly. Being so busy that you don't even have time to go to the toilet. Eat. Or even sleep. Don't you want to be Leo's mother? Then you have to do all these things. Rachel. The child is already in so much pain and keeps crying for his mother. Do you really have to argue about these little things here? Zachary's voice was full of anger. I told you I'm busy. What on earth are you busy with? Rachel. For the wedding dress. The waist here needs to be taken and a bit more. Right? The salesperson came over and asked me with a smile. There was a sudden silence on the other end of the phone. What are you doing? Zachary's voice seemed to be filled with deep disbelief. I told him word by word. I'm trying on a wedding dress. In the following days, Zachary didn't call me again. Jason and I were preparing for the wedding while jointly discussing the next design and marketing plan for Shen's jewelry. Returning to the workplace made me very excited, since new ideas always popped into my mind. I often dragged Jason to chat until midnight. A month later, Zachary and I made an appointment to get the divorce certificate. Do you really have a next partner? He stared at me and asked at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Yeah. Don't you feel guilty towards me for betraying the marriage? He suddenly said. I couldn't help but laugh. No. After all, you don't remember anything either. And you only remember Hannah. I shrugged. Anyway, heading fulfilled my obsession. Since you've forgotten. It's meaningless if only I remember. It's better for both of us to find someone else. Actually, Zachary. Hannah, wearing a small floral dress, trotted over and affectionately took Zachary's arm. Is it done? Leo and I are still waiting for you to come home for dinner. Not yet. Hurry up then. I took the lead and walked into the Civil Affairs Bureau. Both of you. Have you thought this through? The staff member asked. Yes. I said. Zachary didn't say anything. Sir? Rachel. He suddenly turned around. Have you really thought this through? Once we get the certificate, we'll have nothing to do with each other anymore. I sighed. Zachary. Can you stop being so indecisive? Hannah is still waiting for you outside. Bro. I just want to know. He still said his own words. You said we should get a divorce and that's it. Is our 5-year marriage really that worthless to you? We even have a child. Aren't Leo and I worth your nostalgia? I looked at this man whom I had loved for many years in silence. In the previous life, I didn't want to get a divorce. And he thought I was being clingy. In this life, I took the initiative to get a divorce. And now he thinks I'm too quick to let go. Do they, the main characters, get to have it all? Right? No. The past 5 years have been very precious to me. He suddenly looked up, and a glimmer of light seemed to flash in his eyes. After all, it took me 5 years to understand a truth: a simp will never have a good ending. I patted him and said earnestly, let's encourage each other in this regard. As a result, Zachary's face didn't look good at all until we got the divorce certificate and came out. Finally done. It took so long. Were there a lot of people? Hannah asked, holding his arm. It's okay. At this moment, Zachary's phone rang. He answered it. And his face changed drastically. Rachel. He suddenly grabbed me. You made the entire design team resign? Yeah. Why? Why is President Zachary so nervous? I smiled. Didn't President Zachary work so hard to build up Blue Corporation? What impact could it have if there's one less design team? We were husband and wife after all. How could you kick someone out after you've used them? Zachary, don't be angry. I'm also studying design. Aren't I? It's just a design team. I'll just form another one for you. Hannah soothed him. Unexpectedly, He brushed aside Hannah's hand. Rachel. Did you do this on purpose? The autumn new product launch is coming up soon. And at this time. It's so noisy. It's not even a big deal. I ignored him and looked towards the roadside. Here. 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 I waved my arms not far away. Z. Jason. Over here. A Bugatti stopped in front of me. Z. Jason, wearing sunglasses, got out of the car. Is it done? Yeah. Zachary was shocked. Z. Jason. Why are you here? Z. Jason glanced at him. To pick up my fiancée. Fiancée? He was stunned and looked at me. Her? Z. Jason pulled me into his arms. President Zachary. You'd better call her Mrs. Jason from now on. You. Rachel. You. How could you? Seemingly very angry. He started coughing violently. Hannah quickly supported him and patted his back to help him catch his breath. Z. Jason and I looked at each other and then got into the Bugatti. They seem to be really angry with you. Is it because of the design team resigning? I nodded. There's one more thing. If he finds out about it, I'm afraid he'll leave and vomit blood later. What is it? I sighed. Before the design team left, I asked them to kill the fortune tree that he loves the most and that was placed at the entrance. The news that Z. Jason and I were going to get married spread quickly. Unexpectedly. The ones who reacted the most strongly were actually Rachel's parents from her family. You can get a divorce if you want. But why did you marry Zachary's rival? Come back immediately and kneel on the ground to apologize to Zachary. We don't have a daughter like you. If you don't come back, we'll sever the parent-child relationship with you. So, as they wished, I went to their place with the parent-child relationship's evidence document. Behind me were the bodyguards that Z. Jason had assigned to me. Father Rachel. Mother Rachel. As long as you sign here, we'll completely sever the parent-child relationship. Anyway, having fulfilled my obsession, they're not really my real parents. Mother Sue covered her chest and kept shouting that it was a sin, while Father Sue was furious and signed the document. Do you think you can be proud just because you married that Z. Jason? He's just an illegitimate child of the Jason family. If you get bullied and kicked out someday, our Rachel family won't let you in. Mom is a traitor to the family. Leo suddenly rushed out with a toy gun and pointed it at me. I ignored him, motioned for the bodyguard to take away his toy gun and throw it aside, and then turned around and left. He was crying loudly behind me. On the day of the wedding, I wore my favorite mermaid-style dress. Before going on stage, Z. Jason asked me what I was thinking. I said, I used to sincerely want to be nice to everyone. But now I understand that it's more enjoyable to please myself. Z. Jason nodded. When you encounter disgusting people, just don't treat them as human beings. Anyway, they're not doing things that a decent person would do. I deeply agreed and felt that I had found a kindred spirit. The wedding was grand, magnificent, and joyful. Except that in the middle of the night, when I was so tired that I had fallen asleep, I was woken up by a phone call. Rachel. I don't understand. Where exactly am I worse than Z. Jason? On the other end of the phone was the drunk Zachary. Why did you choose anyone but Z. Jason? What kind of person is he? He's far worse than me. Zachary. I hung up the phone expressionlessly. And the next time I saw Zachary was at a business cocktail party. I was on Z. Jason's arm. And he was holding Hannah's hand. It was supposed to be a harmonious scene. But he deliberately came over to pick a fight. Actually, I've always wanted to ask President Jason what tricks she used to deceive Rachel. Z. Jason smiled. President Zachary is joking. We are legally married. I don't know if it was the word legally, or married. But it seemed to break his defenses again. He actually said regardless of the occasion, then President Jason should know how affectionate we were in the past 5 years. And that we have a lovely son. Right? Didn't President Zachary lose his memory? How do you remember that you were affectionate? Z. Jason smiled. If Rachel wasn't really unhappy, why would she get a divorce as soon as you lost your memory? You. He was so angry that he clenched his fists tightly. She was very happy with me. How do you know I was happy? Weren't you supposed to have amnesia? I was a bit impatient and tilted my neck. Coincidentally, A small red mark was just revealed. After all, last night, due to someone's excellent physical strength, I didn't get much sleep. As a result, when Zachary saw it, his eyes turned red immediately. Tired? Let's go back, Jason asked me. Yeah. Rachel. You've been deceived by him. Do you know that? President Zachary. I turned around and said coldly. We're not that familiar. Please call me Mrs. Jason. After saying that, I turned around and left. But at this moment, Zachary suddenly ignored Hannah's dissuasion, rushed up, and waved his fist at Jason. Jason. You stole my wife. I'll kill you. The crowd was in an uproar. And in an instant, a circle formed around the two of them. Of course, his weak fist was immediately caught by Jason. Even more, Jason twisted his arm. Amid his oh cries, I heard Jason's smiling voice. President Zachary. Instead of yelling like a male lead in a romantic novel, you might as well care about the survival of Loot Corporation. I think Jason is really a good person. Even at this moment, he didn't forget to remind his opponent. After the farce ended, Jason and I drove home. I was drowsy. He hesitated to speak. Tonight. Not tonight. I refused firmly. I meant we should discuss the plan for the autumn launch tonight. Oh, it's about work. Then it's okay. I perked up immediately. Yes. Although Jason and I are a bit like having a contractual marriage. We're adults after all. And we're not being coy about sleeping in separate beds. We haven't skipped any of the things that a married couple should do every day. In short, our relationship is all about not having internal conflicts and living happily together as partners. After the cocktail party, I didn't see Zachary for a long time. 3 months later, the autumn launch was a great success. And the market share of Shen's jewelry in October exceeded that of Loot Corporation for the first time. And in November, Loot Corporation suddenly launched the new Hearts Desire series, with the new chief designer Hannah as the chief designer. As soon as the Hearts Desire series was launched, it received rave reviews. And Hannah even went on TV for an interview. She talked eloquently in front of the camera. The Hearts Desire series is derived from my understanding of love. Its design concept is that two hearts are closely connected. When I saw it, I realized that this was the design draft I had casually made for a small jewelry merchant abroad before I married Zachary. Where on earth did she dig it out from? I called that small jewelry merchant. And the other party was greatly shocked and immediately initiated the rights protection process. A month later, all products of the Hearts Desire series were removed from the shelves. And Loot Corporation was involved in an infringement lawsuit. Jason was very kind and lent his most capable lawyer to that jewelry merchant for free. At this time, I received a call from Father Sue and Mother Sue. Your sister has been severely affected by your old draft. Why did you give her that draft? I was baffled. Come to court as a witness immediately and say that you gave the draft to your sister for use yourself. I hung up the phone and blocked them. After this incident, Loot Corporation was severely weakened. I heard that Zachary was very angry about Hannah's plagiarism. And the two of them fell into a cold war. Perhaps feeling insecure. At a drinking party, Hannah actually tried to have a relationship with Zachary and get pregnant when she sent him back to his room while he was drunk. To avoid being disturbed by Leo, she casually gave Zachary's phone to Leo to play with. Who would have thought that Leo knew the phone password? In order to play the game of pretending to be the president, he opened the company's video conference. He directly live-streamed the process of how she drugged Zachary and how she tried hard to seduce him. This video quickly spread on the internet and became a curiosity and a topic of conversation for people during their leisure time. After waking up, Zachary had a big fight with Hannah and cut off all business dealings with the Sue family. In the following days, the tacit understanding between Jason and me grew stronger and stronger. Sometimes, even when I looked up halfway through drawing a design, he would know that I wanted to drink water. Under the combined heavy pressure from Jason and me, the Loot Corporation soon started to decline. The core design team left, and the other departments also lacked unity in their morale. They lost several big orders. Another year, at the spring new product launch conference, As the chief designer of the Shen Corporation, I went on stage to introduce my design concept. The theme of this time is to please oneself. People always pursue the things they like. But we believe that when a girl wears jewelry, it should, to a greater extent, make herself happy. So, so. We hope that every girl who wears Shen's jewelry loves herself first and foremost. Never waste time on people or things that are not worthy. And always believe that you deserve better. Just like myself. I once doubted, felt confused, and suffered. But after my remarriage, my husband treats me very well, and I'm living a happy life. I also hope that every girl can bravely move forward and seek her own happiness. The launch conference was a great success, and the sales volume that night reached a new high. In the evening, holding a glass of red wine and closing my eyes to rest, I was suddenly picked up by Z. Jason. "Are you back?" I yawned. "Yeah." I opened my eyes and met his intense gaze. "The launch conference went well." He tapped my nose. "Of course. After remarriage, your husband treats you well, and you're living a happy life?" I gave him a sidelong glance. "What's wrong? Can't I praise you?" He let out a low laugh. "Today," I suddenly thought. He sat me on his lap. "You're too dazzling. I kind of want to lock you up so that only I can see you." What should I do? The system that had been silent for a long time suddenly popped up at this moment. "See? I told you he's a Wyander. He wants to imprison you and possess you all to himself. You won't be happy with him." I waved my hand and deducted 20 points from it. And then muted it again. "I have the same intention towards you." I reached out and tied his tie and wrapped it around his hands circle by circle. The system. How could I not have discovered such a man in my previous life? He's dangerous yet charming, honest and passionate. He's much more interesting than Zachary no matter how you look at it. Just as I was thinking this, the tie in my hand was suddenly snatched away. "Huh? When did he untie it?" "You're really disobedient." He raised his hand, covered my eyes with the tie, and gently placed a kiss on my earlobe. "But I like it." The performance of the Lu Corporation plummeted. Hannah started writing a long post online, crying about how Zachary had taken advantage of her and then abandoned her. Zachary, on the other hand, accused Hannah of deliberately seducing him after their divorce, which had destroyed his marriage and his reputation. The two of them had a fierce argument on social media, and Mr. and Mrs. Sue, because the Sue Corporation had gone bankrupt, firmly targeted Zachary. They went to the Lu Corporation to cause trouble every day, saying that Zachary had destroyed Hannah's marriage and now he wasn't taking responsibility for Hannah. Unable to bear the harassment, in order to avoid Hannah and the two of them, Zachary even jumped off the second and floor rooftop and accidentally broke his leg. That night, when I was sleeping drowsily, I received a strange phone call. The person on the other end of the phone seemed to be drunk and kept saying to me, "Rachel, I actually remember everything. I regret it. I really regret it." Z. Jason was woken up by the phone call. "Who's calling?" I hung up the phone. I heard asking call. A few days later, another phone call came in. It was Mrs. Sue. "Rachel, your birthday is coming up soon. Mom and Dad have cooked delicious dishes for you. Come back and let's spend it together as a family. Oh, and you can bring Z. Jason along too." I replied inferiorly. "Auntie, do I need to send you the parent-child severance relationship letter again?" Then, went out. I hung up the phone. Z. Jason looked at me. "You've been getting a lot of harassing calls lately." I sighed and added this number to the blacklist. One day, Z. Jason and I passed by the kindergarten where Leo was. We found that he was actually being bullied by several older children. Yo, isn't this the rich Leo from before? Why are you picking up trash?" Leo burst into tears. "My mom is very rich. She married a rich man. Don't look down on me. I'll ask my mom to teach you a lesson. Do you want to intervene?" Z. Jason asked me. I shook my head. "Let's go." The jewelry business of the Shen Corporation gradually grew bigger and bigger. Suddenly one day, a colleague from the public relations department said that there was a live streaming room selling counterfeit goods under the banner of Shen's Jewelry. Just as I was wondering who was so bold, I found that the manager of the live streaming room was actually Hannah, and the hosts were Mr. and Mrs. Su. We are the parents of Rachel, the chief designer of Shen's jewelry. They swindled people by showing my childhood photos. That's where we can offer an internal price to our family members. Z. Jason asked me how I wanted to deal with it. Just go through the legal process directly. Make them pay the compensation if they should, and let them be sentenced if they deserve it. There will be no reconciliation. The live streaming room was immediately shut down, and the lawyer filed a lawsuit. Rachel, how could you treat your parents like this? Where's your conscience? A few days later, Mr. and Mrs. Su came to the entrance of the Shen Corporation with Hannah to cause trouble. I was too lazy to deal with them and called the police directly. Later, the three of them were detained for causing trouble, and there were still lawsuits and compensations waiting for them. On this day, I got a bottle of good red wine and went home earlier than Z. Jason. What are you doing hiding in the closet? The system asked in confusion. Just having some fun. I want to give him a surprise. I gently closed the closet door. Are you two going too far with your games? You weren't like this before. The system snorted. Say one more word of nonsense, and I'll mute you again. Points aren't meant to be used like this. It protested. Scram. Just then, Z. Jason came back. I quickly fell silent and peeked at him through the crack of the door. I saw him take off his cufflinks, tear off his tie, and stand in front of the French window with his back to me. What's wrong? Are you stunned? Do you like him that much? The system clicked its tongue beside me. Just as I was about to tell it to shut up, I suddenly heard Jason seem to be speaking. I froze in place. Because he said, "System. Am I about to succeed soon?" I stood there in a daze. I couldn't hear the answer from Z. Jason's system, but from his words, I knew that Z. Jason was also a mission player. It's just that the judgment for his successful mission was to defeat the Shen Corporation's competitor, the Lu Corporation, and make it go bankrupt. System. Did you already know that he was also a mission player? So you didn't let me go for him? The system stammered and didn't answer. No wonder. In the original setting, Z. Jason and I were probably in a zero-sum game to a certain extent. If I successfully courted Zachary and lived a happy life with him, and the two of us worked together as a couple, with my help, the Lu Corporation probably wouldn't go down. Similarly, if Z. Jason brought down the Lu Corporation, with Zachary's arrogant personality, he definitely wouldn't want to live a poor life with me, and my mission would most likely end in failure. And now, I suddenly opened the closet door. Rachel? Z. Jason immediately turned around. You? Meeting his slightly surprised gaze, I smiled and raised the red wine in my hand. I heard everything. I wish you success in your mission. Let me explain. He seemed a bit flustered all of a sudden. It doesn't matter. Because I am also a mission player. What? He was stunned. I smiled. Tonight, we should have a long talk. Z. Jason said that in the original world, his mother was framed and forced to divorce. In order to give him the best education, she took on many jobs and eventually died of overwork at an early age. After he grew up, he returned to the Jason family, fought for power with his half-brothers, and finally defeated everyone to become the head of the Shen Corporation. He also sent the stepmother who had framed his mother to prison. But he himself was so exhausted that he finally fell into a coma in bed, probably sensing my strong unwillingness. The system came to ask me if I was willing to come to this world as a mission player. He said. He turned his head and was stunned. Rachel, why are you crying? I shook my head. It's nothing. I just thought of my mom in my original world. Coincidentally, I also came from a single-parent family. When I was a child, my mom also sacrificed a lot for me. Later, she met a suitor. I didn't want her to give up her happiness because of me, so I left her on my own initiative. I haven't contacted her for a long time. She should be living a happy life now. I wiped away my tears. Z. Jason put down his wine glass and hugged me. With you as her daughter, she should be very happy. Just then, Z. Jason's phone suddenly received a message. The Lu Corporation officially declared bankruptcy. Z. Jason had successfully completed his mission. Z. Jason asked me what my mission goal was. I didn't tell him the truth. I've actually already completed my mission. I just think it's quite nice here and I don't plan to go back, I said. The system was very confused. What's the point of telling him? I smiled. I haven't completed my mission yet. Which means that in his heart, I'm not the most important. It's not something that can be achieved just because I tell him and he sympathizes with me. If you tell him, maybe there's a higher chance. I shook my head. System. I don't want to beg for love from anyone anymore. A few days later, Z. Jason's system urged him to claim his reward and return to the original world. He came to discuss it with me. I agree. I nodded. You've been here for so long. If you don't go back, be careful that the country you fought for with your life will change hands. I'm a bit worried about you. He looked at me and said, what's there to worry about? I shrugged. You've left me such a big company. I won't be able to spend all the money in my lifetime here. I'm too happy for that. Is this really what you want? I nodded. Yes, having so bad sorry. I'm very sure. So. He transferred the company to me and bought a plane ticket to go abroad. On the day he left, it was drizzling. I didn't go to see him off. Once he leaves, you'll officially fail your mission, the system said in my ear. Yeah. See, having so failed lad session. I told you not to choose him. There's no good ending. But you didn't listen. I smiled. System. You know what? This period of time is the most enjoyable time I've had in this world. I don't have to be a bootlicker for others. And I don't need others to like me. I can be myself if I want. Never wrong myself. Take revenge if I want. And enjoy myself if I want. I think it's quite worth it. The system sighed. Actually, I secretly checked the data. For Z. Jason. You were almost there. How about I apply for you to see if you can stay in this world? But you'll definitely need to change your identity. And you definitely won't be able to keep your wealth and so on. Okay. Thank you. I raised my head. And the rain started to pour down heavily. I didn't bring an umbrella again. Forget it. It's not bad to get drenched. Anyway, having fulfilled laid sasham. There isn't much time left. I just sat on the bench in the park. Raised my head. Closed my eyes. And let the rain flow down my hair. Suddenly, an umbrella shielded my head. I opened my eyes. The man who should have been on the plane was standing in front of me, holding an umbrella. I stared at him blankly. Why are you? I noticed it was raining before boarding the plane. He squatted down while holding the umbrella. I was afraid you'd go out without an umbrella. So I came back. You see. I was right as expected. I just like getting caught in the rain. I said stubbornly. Won't you miss your flight? Unexpectedly. His eyes darkened. Rachel. When I said before that I only want you to be mine, I wasn't joking. He sat down beside me and let out a sigh. Today, looking at this rain, just the thought of there being another person to hold an umbrella for you in such weather makes me want to kill that person. So. He stroked my head. I'd better stay and keep an eye on you. I was stunned. What are you talking about? In the original world. The things you fought so hard to get. Your career. You're giving them all up? Yeah. He nodded. I'm giving them up. Looking back on those things now. They don't seem that important. Compared to those. I'm happier to be with you. You must be crazy. I'm a crazy person to begin with. His hand gently caressed my cheek. So. Would you like to stay with this crazy person? Pop. Suddenly. The street lamp went out. In the darkness. A cold kiss landed on my lips. My body was tightly embraced. At this moment, a strange voice suddenly came from above my head. Congratulations. Host. You have successfully strategy guide. The Y-Ender villain. Both Z. Jason and I could go home. We handed over Shin Corporation to his younger brother, who had just returned to the country in this world. And then we boarded the plane to go abroad together. On the last day in this world. We hugged each other in the snow and watched the magnificent aurora in the distance. As a shooting star streaked across the sky, a familiar voice came from the aurora. I am the main god of the system. Congratulations to the two strategy guiders. Next, I will activate the time-space tunnel and send the two of you back to the original world. And you will get healthy bodies. And Rachel, because you chose a strategy guide. Or as the target to strategy guide, and the difficulty was doubled. After your success, you can get additional generous points rewards. What would you like to exchange for? Main God. I looked up at the sky. I've always had a question. Go ahead. On the day I was reborn. I heard your voice say that I was able to be reborn because I achieved the marriage achievement in the middle and exchanged valid points. But at that time, I shouldn't have had any points. I want to know. Where did the points that allowed me to be reborn come from? The main god of the system seemed to be silent for a while. It was your mother in the original world. After a while, it said, actually, not long after you fell into a coma. Your mother had been staying with you in the hospital. When you were about to be erased in this world, your original body also suffered from acute failure. Your mother had a dream about your failure in the strategy guide and knelt on the ground, praying to exchange her 10 years of life for a chance for you to have another try. My tears almost burst out all at once. It was Mom. It was actually Mom. It was Mom who had always loved me and never gave up on me. Then can I exchange all these points for my mom's lifespan? I said with a choke in my throat. Of course you can. It can add a total of 20 years to her lifespan. See, Jason beside me hugged me tightly as I kept crying. Rachel. Let's go home and see Mom. That night. With the brillianter aura. Z. Jason and I held hands and went home together. Doctor. Doctor. Come quickly. My daughter is moving. She's moving. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in a hospital bed. Beside me was my mother who had been watching over me. Rachel. It's Mom. Mom has always been here. Mom. I raised my hand, held her rough palm, and smiled slightly. I'm back. She nodded desperately, and tears kept streaming down her face. Next, there was a series of examinations. It's a miracle. It's really a miracle. There's not a single problem with the body anymore. The doctor clicked his tongue in amazement. The little nurse beside him giggled secretly. I told you our hospital has good feng shui. That President Jason in the VIP ward also woke up just now. The richest man in our city? Exactly. Everyone said he couldn't be saved before and had been relying on a ventilator to stay alive. And suddenly he's fine. Just after waking up. It seems his mind isn't working very well. I heard he asked the Jason family to immediately search the whole city for someone named Suran, or Suran might be a wrong character here. Assuming it's an in. I don't know if that person is his enemy or something. Who did you say he was looking for? Who? I said blankly. Rachel. Your name also sounds similar. The little nurse leaned over and said with a smile. That President Jason is said to be quite scary. You'd better not get wrongly caught. Where is the VIP ward? I grabbed the nurse's arm anxiously. It's on the 16th floor. I jumped out of bed at once. Hey. Rachel. Your shoes. I took the elevator and rushed to the 16th floor. Sorry. Maybe we really have a lot of wonderful memories. But I don't remember anything now. I only have Hannah in my heart. There were quite a few people in the room. But none of them was Z. Jason. The hospital bed not far away was empty. Miss, ending fulfilled my obsession. Who are you? Someone came up and asked. I might have found the wrong place. She's Rachel. A familiar voice suddenly came from behind. I turned around sharply. He was standing behind me, wearing a hospital gown. He was a bit thinner than before, but still as handsome as ever. Our eyes met, and we both smiled at each other. He walked closer and hugged me tightly in his arms. Rachel. He whispered in my ear. For the wedding dress here. Do you still want the mermaid-style dress? The end.